No, I just kind of read up on stuff and tried to get my house situated so that way I can accommodate it because it's been a bit of a mess. All the surfaces in my house are occupied by crap, so I'm just like, I need to fucking get that situation together. So
Why are the? Don't you use the bathroom?
shut up.
Oh, okay. And it's Thursday. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lords of the Night. With me, as always, is the Lord of Pennies, Satsu 2 cents.
What up, dope?
And I am your host, Scribe, the Lord of Punishment. And boy, oh boy, did I fulfill that title today. Hello, chat. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all having a good Thursday, and you have a good Friday ahead of you, weekend thereafter. Satsu, something momentous happened today.
Yeah.
And there's not really any way to spoiler alert this because it's pretty much well known, but most of it goes into this from Mr. Tickletrunk. Thank you so much, Mr. Tickletrunk. Scribbles, I just watched your momentous occasion on replay. Not only did you fill an entire TEDx bingo card today, but you hit multiple WTFs before the card blackout. Congratulations, and I'm sorry for your loss. Yes, everyone, it finally legitimately happened. A single TEDx talk filled out an entire bingo card, both in specificity and in overall aggregate of the presentation. Every single trope and or subject was covered in the TEDx talk. And it was a cursed talk from the beginning. To know why that is, you'll have to watch the replay. But yes, it finally happened. And I finally legitimately got to play the blackout announcement celebration video, whatever you want to call it. But thank you so much, Mr. Tickletrunk. Sorry you missed it. And thank you, Metal Person. Happy National Black Cow Day. That is another name for a root beer float. I did not know that. That's the second thing I learned today.
I guess that makes sense.
The first thing I learned today was the phrase or the term fast fashion.
Oh.
Have you heard that before?
No, I have not.
Yeah, I thought it was the speaker in the presentation mispronouncing something, but in fact, fast fashion just means mass-produced, cheaply created clothing.
Oh, I could have assumed that.
That's all that means. I hadn't heard it before. I didn't know in the context that she was saying it. I didn't really understand what was going on. But hey, like I say, learn something new. Hopefully every day. That was the only silver lining to the TEDx is that I learned that phrase because I didn't know that before. But anyway, that's at least part of how my day was. I'll go into other details shortly. Satsu, how was your day?
Not bad. Spent most of the day just kind of cleaning up and shit. Trying to get my house in a make it a reasonable workspace because it's not. So
yeah, you gotta wipe all the crap off.
Yeah, all the crap off my surfaces.
Well, as for me, aside from the TED Excellence, which was just crazy, absolutely crazy. I mean, I was at the very end, we had like 1 square or 2 squares left. I was really like, I was checking, is this legit? Am I just doing this to do it? And like, no, she really did touch on all these issues. Okay. But aside from that, workday was workday, relatively quiet, thankfully. What else? I think that's not much else going on, just kind of a regular day aside from that anomaly. And cooking up tonight's theme, I was kind of scrambling to come up with something to do because I've got like little, technically bookcases in my computer room here that are like filled with like DVDs and movies and things from the past. And I'm always looking at them trying to see, okay, is there a movie or a franchise or something that I can riff off of to make a theme of? And I've already done that. I've done that and I've done that. Oh, and I've done that. So I was like, what's something that's got like characters in it And then I remembered, well, I watched Jupiter's Legacy not too long ago. How about that? And I thought it turned out pretty good. The only problem is that, like I prefer to do in all of my themes and everything, if I can, I like to find the font that goes along with whatever it is that I'm looking at in order to make it look more legitimate. So far as I can tell, the font used in Jupiter's Legacy is completely custom, and at least as of right now, no one's made a font set for it. So what does one do? Well, one gets creative. And so I found a transparent version of the logo and then cobbled together the letters I needed from the letters that were available. And I think it turned out all right. So there you go. There's a little behind the scenes action there. Otherwise, Monkey Dick, Jim Jones, movies, video games, hit that like button if you have not already. And I can see that many of you haven't, but hey, what else? I guess I'm practicing body neutrality.
Yeah.
And please share our stuff, share it far, wide, sideways, and otherwise. Said it before, we'll say it again. YouTube does a very poor job of advertising that content creators exist, especially smaller ones like ourselves. So if there's a content creator out there that you appreciate, whether it's us or someone else, please be sure to let people know that you like their stuff, because YouTube won't do it, and you guys are our best algorithm. Now, granted, I don't lose my voice almost again like last night. Let's move on to the wonderful world of the news. Are you ready, Satsu, for the news?
Oh, yeah. Very ready.
All right. Well, I mentioned this the other night, and apparently something's going on over there. Third member of prestigious FDA panel resigns over approval of Biogen's Alzheimer's drug. So, yeah, the first Alzheimer's drug approved by the FDA in the last 20 years happened, well, the other day. And it was controversial because apparently several experts say that it is either not effective or doesn't really do anything or whatever. And apparently there's a revolt going on as a result of it, which makes me kind of sad because I'm always kind of hoping for a treatment and or cure for this disease at some point, because I'm on track to possibly get it someday. The key points from CNBC. A third member of a key Food and Drug Administration advisory panel has resigned over the agency's controversial decision to approve Biogen's new Alzheimer's drug, Aduhelm. CNBC has learned. Aduhelm, that sounds like a location in Lord of the Rings or something. Dr. Aaron Kesselheim, a professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School, said the agency's decision on Biogen, quote, was probably the worst drug approval decision in recent U.S. history, unquote, according to his resignation letter obtained by CNBC.
Oh, wow.
Wowzers. I hope he goes into more detail. A third member of a... Yeah, we were talking about that. Quote, at the last minute, the agency switched its review to the accelerated approval pathway based on the debatable premise that the drug's effect on brain amyloid was likely to help patients with Alzheimer's disease, unquote, he wrote in resigning from the FDA's Peripheral and Central Nervous System Advisory Committee, or PACASAC. PACASAC. He wrote it was clear to him that the agency is not, quote, presently capable of adequately integrating the committee's scientific recommendations into its approval decisions. This will undermine the care of these patients, public trust in the FDA, the pursuit of useful therapeutic innovation, and the affordability of the healthcare system, he said. Shares of Biogen surged 38% on Monday after the FDA approved the biotech company's drug, the first medication cleared by U.S. regulators to slow cognitive decline in people living with Alzheimer's, and the first new medicine for the disease in nearly 2 decades. Biogen's drugs targets a sticky compound in the brain known as beta amyloid, which scientists expect plays a role in the devastating disease. Yeah, it's another word for, they call it plaque in the brain.
Yeah.
It kind of literally clogs up the work, so to speak. The FDA approved the drug under a program called accelerated approval. Is that another phrase for cutting corners? Which is usually used for cancer medications, expecting the drug would slow the cognitive decline in Alzheimer's patients. The agency granted approval on the condition that Biogen conducts another clinical trial. So wait, the trials aren't done, but you guys approved it. Okay.
They approved it under the condition that they finish the trials, apparently.
The agency's decision was a departure from the advice of its independent panel of outside experts who unexpectedly declined to endorse the drug last fall, citing unconvincing data. At the time, the panel also criticized agency staff for what it called an overly positive review of the data. I have to ask the question, is in any way, shape, or form the people involved in the agency financially tied to the company that's going to benefit from this? I mean, one would hope there are, and I don't know. I don't know. Hope there's like rules and regulations against anybody having any financial interest in any organization that they are reviewing drugs for. But why would you fast track this? It's been 20 years. Alzheimer's is what it is at present. Why fast track it? My question would be, what was the rationale? Let's see. At least 2 other FDA panel members have resigned as a result of the agency's decision on the drug. Mayo Clinic neurologist Dr. David Notman and Washington University neurologist Dr. Joel Perlmutter have also submitted resignation letters. Quote, "I was very disappointed at how the advisory committee input was treated by the FDA," Notman told Reuters. "I don't wish to be put in a position like this again." Federal regulators have faced intense pressure from friends and family members of Alzheimer's patients asking to fast-track the drug, scientifically known as aducanumab, but the road to regulatory approval has been a controversial one since it showed promise in 2016. Hey, you know what? Friends and family members of Alzheimer's patients, I can totally empathize with you. I've had family members who have suffered from and or died from Alzheimer's. However, rushing out a drug and putting pressure on scientists to rush out a drug that may or may not work, banking on it working when you don't know that it will, giving false hope to people, and conceivably slowing down development of actual functioning drugs, not a good strategy. And anybody who gave into pressure from friends and or family members of Alzheimer's patients to cut corners, shame.
For shame.
Shame. Like the guy said up there, it lowers confidence in the FDA. If you guys are going to just push things out when they're not ready, if you're going to be like, oh, I don't know, Activision or something with a video game, who's going to trust you when the next one comes out? And if you think, doubt over the vaccine is bad, talk about Alzheimer's, which we know destroys people. In March 2019, Biogen pulled development of the drug after an analysis from an independent group revealed it was unlikely to work. The company then shocked investors several months later by announcing it would seek regulatory approval for the drug after all. Why? When Biogen sought approval for the drug in late 2019, its scientists said a new analysis of a larger data set showed aducanumab, quote, reduced clinical decline in patients with early Alzheimer's disease, unquote. Did it? A larger data set showed that. Alzheimer's experts and Wall Street analysts were immediately skeptical, with some wondering whether the clinical trial data was enough to prove the drug works and whether approval could make it harder for other companies to enroll patients in their own drug trials. Yeah. Some doctors have said they won't prescribe because of the mixed data package supporting the company's application. Yeah, and there's really the problem. Mixed data package, and the FDA says, oh, okay, we'll fast track it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Unless you give a really good explanation for why that information, sketchy as it is, was enough for you to approve it. And also at the same time saying, on the condition you guys continue to test it. No. FDA, fuck you. I have a personal stake in this stuff going well. And hell, you know what? If I was 30 years older than I am right now, and I was somehow on the edge of starting off with Alzheimer's, and I still had my cognitive ability, and I knew there was a maybe that some drug might work, I still wouldn't beg for it or that it be approved. Because I would rather just live out my life, whatever it is, without screwing up somebody else's future by trying out or supporting something that hasn't been proven to work.
All right.
Give me a break. That pisses me off. My grandfather died of Alzheimer's. And this is years and years and years ago, so none of this would have affected him at all. But I would not have wanted anything like false hope over a non-proven drug in that instance. I'd rather know his fate than be given false hope. Sorry, just a little personal on that one. Thank you, Piccolo. Is there an underwater research lab involved? I mean, that'd be cool. Like, really cool. But I doubt it. I don't think these guys are that neat.
Sea lab.
Speaking of people who are not neat.
What?
Jeffrey Toobin is back at CNN 8 months after exposing himself on Zoom.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. So I got a Twitter notification. And in the Twitter notification, there was like a half a message because, they don't show you the whole thing. And it was like, he exposed himself to blank. And I'm like, wait, what? So I clicked on it, and it just kept taking me to my homepage. And I'm like, what the fuck was that about? And to this moment, I was just like, I guess I won't know what the fuck that was about. And there it is. Here's the review.
There you go. I'm here to help. Thank you, Redneck Ram. To borrow from you, Scribe. Holy cats! I just got done watching the TED Excellence from today. As a fat man, even I couldn't fathom that woman. She was just a... See, here's the problem. Like, regular, benign expressions and words that could be used to describe things. When you're referring to a presentation that is about body size and overweight and so on, saying things like, that was a big, or whatever. And the wide, this, I mean, just throughout the entire thing, I kept running into just unintentional directed puns situation. And it was kind of, every time I was like, I don't mean, at one point, and you can hear this on the broadcast, at one point I stopped myself completely because I was about to say, after she made some grand statement, I was about to say something to the effect of, you do not represent the entire world. I didn't say that, though. It would have been hilarious, but I didn't say it. Thank you, Chat Mort. Hi, Scribe. I hope you guys are having a decent night. Hey, Chat Mort, you want to come on the show? We could do with a guest. You don't have to. Maybe you're busy. I don't know what your schedule is and everything these days. But if you want to, let me know. I'll send you the link. I don't know when you're... is SideQuest Thursday nights or is that Friday nights or something? I keep forgetting. I don't know anymore anyway. But anyway, if you want to come on the show, let me know. Anyway, let's talk about old Jeffrey Lubin is Toobin. Jeffrey Toobin returned to CNN as the network's chief legal analyst on Thursday. Oh, he got his old job back? The whole thing?
Wow.
Wow, that is impressive. 8 months after he exposed himself during a Zoom call with colleagues at The New Yorker. Toobin was interviewed by anchor Allison Camerata on CNN Newsroom about that incident and about recent legal news. Yeah, I wonder why anybody would tune in at all to listen to Toobin about anything other than the incident. And how awkward must that have been? Now, this first sentence coming from Allison Camerata. Let's just read this together, shall we? I feel like we should address what's happened in the months since we've seen you, Camerata said. She summarized the situation, which you're not going to do here. Oh, Brian Stelter and Oliver Darcy. It took two of you to write this? Okay. To quote Jay Leno, what the hell were you thinking? Toobin described himself as a, quote, flawed human being who makes mistakes, unquote. Well, I guess, Jeffrey, you're just like the rest of us.
I do love that kind of... I don't know. I always felt there was kind of a pretentiousness behind that statement alone. Like, I'm a flawed human being. Like, no fucking shit. Like, everybody is.
Yeah, it doesn't really, I mean, obviously it depends on the circumstances. And there are honest mistakes to be had, so on and so forth. But it is such a non-excuse in some situations that it just doesn't fly. Like, okay, yeah, but okay, are you just that illiterate when it comes to computers and Zoom? Like, how long have you been using Zoom to that point that you didn't know you were still on camera? It just, either way. I mean, okay, from everything that I heard, or at least as described to me, it didn't seem like he did it on purpose.
Right.
Right. But all the same, it's like, how did you... And at that moment when the meeting was still going on, he added, quote, "I didn't think other people could see me," but he admitted that was no defense.
I mean, that is the
only defense.
Right. Because it's just like, and even asking the question, what were you thinking? I was just thinking, I wonder how they'd feel if they saw my dick right now. Like, yeah. What do you think he was thinking?
In the interview, Toobin expressed apologies to his wife and family, to the people who were on the Zoom call that day, and to his colleagues. Quote, "And I'm sorry to the people who read my work and who watch me on CNN who thought I was a better person than this." Okay.
What do you... Okay.
Look, walking around naked in your own apartment is not a sin.
Right.
Okay. The entire thing is just like, why were you naked during a Zoom call? And wasn't it that he was like sexting with somebody at the same time, and that's why he was naked in the first place and jerking off?
I don't remember the circumstance, because there's been so many fucking naked in front of Zoom stories at this point. So I'm like, they're all kind of mixing together for me. But
yeah,
it's not a matter of your character as a person. You know what I mean? Like, you just, you made a stupid decision.
Yeah, having something embarrassing happen to you is not a character flaw. Making a mistake is not inherently a character flaw. I'm just, the thing that he was masturbating on the call, which is something completely different. Just, I mean, if you're just walking around naked, okay, you got caught, whatever. So anyway, Toobin said he spent his miserable months off air trying to be a better person. He mentioned therapy, public service like working a food bank, and a forthcoming book about the Oklahoma City bombing. That was a blast from the past. Oh, God, that was bad. That was not intentional. I am just doing that over and over again. Jeez.
Scribe.
I think I need to go to therapy now and go to a food bank to try to make myself a better person. I am trying to become the kind of person that people can trust again, he said. Going forward, Toobin will be back on CNN regularly in his chief legal analyst role, a spokesman confirmed. Toobin said he was incredibly grateful to continue working at the network. Oh, yeah, I bet he was.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, to have any job back after all that nuts. People familiar with the matter said that Toobin exposed himself when he began masturbating during the Zoom, apparently as part of a different video call. He knew he was on camera, just didn't know which camera he was on.
Well, to be fair, whenever you have open two programs that both utilize video, most of the time, like, only one of them can have access to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's typically how it works, but I don't know how Zoom is with that. So,
the people said that they did not believe he intended his colleagues to witness it. That I believe. When Vice heard about the incident and reported it, Toobin admitted that he made an embarrassingly stupid mistake, believing I was off camera. But you knew you were on camera. It's just a different camera.
And believing he was off camera on the Zoom call.
yeah, but presumably not with your wife.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Now, hold on.
That's the other part. I mean, if you want to talk about morals here, that might be the only other question, but that's entirely separate.
I was just about to say the same thing. Like, well, that might be grounds for becoming a better person. Maybe that's where he's coming from.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, enough about him. If I never hear anything significant about Jeffrey Toobin again, I'll be a happy guy. Moving on. So remember, guys, there is no investigation going on into what happened on January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to give that as preamble. DOJ charges 6 connected to pro-Trump rallies and right-wing revolutionary group in new Capitol riot conspiracy case. Remember, guys, there's no investigation going on to find out what happened or what was behind the January 6th riot. Just want to make sure you know that. Okay. 6 men from California who allegedly organized themselves as a DC brigade, including one man who spoke at a right-wing rally in Washington, D.C. the day before the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, face new conspiracy charges from the Justice Department, according to court documents made public on Thursday. The case adds to a pile of prosecutions that investigators have pursued. What? A pile of what? But But we'll never know what happened that day because there's not going to be a second Senate House investigation thing after the impeachment that did the same thing. And
yeah, the Republicans blocked it forever. Remember CNN?
Yeah, none of that will ever happen.
Yeah, our democracy is in danger already. Like it's already on critical health.
Prosecutions that investigators have pursued alleging that groups of American extremists from far-right organizations like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers worked together to plan the attack on Congress's certification of the presidential vote. You know, now, granted, there's like several hundred various hours of footage that we haven't seen from the day's events and so on. That didn't look like much of a plan. I mean, maybe gathering there was planned, but everything that happened after that didn't look very, like, organized. It looked like a bunch of people taking independent actions, some of whom just happened to be in the same area as one another.
Yeah, but it's not as cool unless they're organized. Yeah,
I guess. This is the first case against multiple people said to be affiliated with the 3 percenters. The 3 percenters. I know I should know what that means, but I don't. Or it's not coming to me. The alleged 3 percenter conspirators are Alan Hostetter of San Clemente, Russell Taylor of Ladera Ranch, Eric Scott Warner of Menifee, Felipe Antonio Tony Martinez, and Derek Kinnison of Lake Elsinore, and Ronald Mealy of Temecula. Kinnison had written in an encrypted app the group used for planning that he, Martinez, and Warner took part in the 3 Percenters militia, which prosecutors say supported an armed revolution. Okay.
You know who else supports armed revolutions?
Who's that?
Black Lives Matter. And Antifa.
Satsu, stop.
I'm just saying.
Stop it!
Look.
Stop it now! Taylor, a speaker at a January 5th rally for then-President Donald Trump, is also accused of carrying a knife and telling the crowd during the January 6th siege to, quote, move forward, unquote, and head, quote, inside, unquote. You mean, now, were the D.C. police at the time directing them into the building?
That doesn't matter.
Carrying a knife. Okay, so I assume then you're going to go for, I mean, I don't know what the laws are in D.C. regarding carrying weapons. I guess, you know, if they're knives or otherwise. So maybe like carrying a weapon without a permit or something, or without a concealed carry or whatever. And incitement, maybe. But I don't know if move forward and heading inside equates to incitement of violence. In February, the FBI raided Hostetter and Taylor's homes. Hostetter had founded the American Phoenix Project to oppose pandemic restrictions in 2020 and worked with Taylor and an unnamed person later in the year to claim the election had been stolen from Trump, according to the indictment Thursday. Okay, and not to be on the side of crazy people, but is it illegal to believe the election was stolen?
Well, we already know the answer to that because plenty of people who think it's illegal to believe that the election was stolen believed that the election was stolen like 4 years ago. Well, like when Trump was elected. So. Well,
yeah, but at the same time, if somebody, and plenty of people did back in 2016 and onward, said Trump isn't really the president, that shouldn't be, they shouldn't be arrested for that. So Anyway, Hostetter and Taylor also co-sponsored the pro-Trump rally near the Supreme Court on January 5th, one day before the attack, CNN previously reported. Is that a crime? I mean, you're listing off all these things, but what does that have to do with the charges brought against them? Because opposing pandemic restrictions, again, it depends on how they oppose them. If they ended up opposing them through violence or something, that's a completely separate issue. But being against the restrictions, thinking the election was stolen, organizing a rally.
This is more of these are bad people, and we would just want to really drive the point home.
Footage of the rally shows the men spewing militant vitriol. First Amendment. Hostetter told the crowd to prepare for war tomorrow against vipers in Congress who refused to nullify President Joe Biden's win. Taylor said, quote, we will not return to our peaceful way of life until this election is made right, unquote. Okay, now, taking those comments on their own, I don't know, and without the rest of the context, if that rises to the level of incitement under precedent. Maybe it does. I don't know.
It definitely sounds like it might, but I don't know
it's
either.
It's a heck of a lot more directed than anything Trump said that day.
You're like, be peaceful.
Yeah. Yeah, peaceful, walk, so on. But this is war tomorrow against vipers in Congress, and we will not return to our peaceful way of... Yeah, so I don't know.
Well, I guess we have to be fair to the other side and admit that Trump did use a word that no other, political person has ever used when he was talking about this whole thing.
Fight.
He said the word fight a lot, and everybody knows that he's the only human in history in a political position to ever use the word fight. So I get it. I get why they were so threatened, because fight is definitely one of those words.
You see, one of the things that I'm curious to see what happens is, of all the indictments and all the trials that they bring, how many actually end up in guilty verdicts? Do they have enough evidence to convict them of the most serious crimes? And how many of them are going to be charged with the actual crime of insurrection or treason or something that actually rises to the level of the rhetoric we've been hearing so much of?
I don't think it matters, because I'm starting to see a pattern now of like this age of accountability, as some people like to call it, where people are getting what they deserve finally. Every day, like way too often, like 6 to 8 months later, we hear how these people just kind of quietly went back into their positions. This has been kind of a constant for a while, and I'm just now realizing like this has been happening quite a bit. and companies or news outlets who've been lying about shit, just flat out straight up lying, they're just like, okay, well, we'll wait a little bit until everything dies down and nobody cares, and then we'll secretly be like, yeah, we lied about that, sorry, and just move on, and nobody will care because it's too late.
Oh yeah, the retraction of an errored story is always 17 pages into the paper, unlike the headline that initially started the whole thing. All right, one more before we move on, because I saw this and I just thought, nun admits to stealing over $835,000 from her school to help finance gambling habit.
A gambling nun.
No, hold on. I just want to, because in the day of puns, gambling habit on a nun. Anyway, apparently God was not with her in her roles. A now retired nun will plead guilty to wire fraud and money laundering charges for stealing more than $835,000 for gambling and other personal expenses from the Southern California school that she ran, federal prosecutors say.
Oof.
Mary Margaret Krupper, a 79-year-old Los Angeles resident, violated her vow of poverty during a 10-year period in which she pocketed tuition money, fees, and charitable donations intended for St. James Catholic School in Torrance, California, according to a plea agreement with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Central District of California. She was principal for nearly 3 decades. Okay, here's a thought. Where was the accountant? I mean, the school did have an accountant or a financial department or something, or did they? Krepper's attorney, Mark Burns, said Thursday that his client was, quote, very remorseful, unquote, that she got caught. And when confronted, quote, accepted full responsibility for what she had done and cooperated completely with law enforcement and the archdiocese. Well, if she had any hope of getting a deal, then yeah. Burns said in a statement that Krepper became a nun at 18 and, quote, dedicated her life to helping others and educating children in archdiocesan schools, unquote. Well, not all of her life. Quote, unfortunately, later in her life, she has been suffering from a mental illness that clouded her judgment and caused her to do something that she otherwise would not have done. He added, quote, she is very sorry for any harm she has caused, unquote. When did she start doing this? During a 10-year period. Okay, so she's 79 now. So somewhere between, say, late 60s to now, she was just stealing $835,000 under the noses of everybody. Okay. Kripper was charged Tuesday with 1 count of wire fraud and 1 count of money laundering. During her 28 years as principal, Crepper oversaw funds the school received, including cash and checks for tuition, fees, and donations. According to the plea agreement, Crepper was a signatory on a pair of credit union accounts, a school savings account, and a convert account to pay for living expenses for herself and other nuns in the school. But Crepper, quote, fraudulently diverted checks and cash intended for the school into the 2 accounts she controlled, quote, to pay for expenses that the order would not have approved, much less paid for, including large gambling expenses incurred at casinos and certain credit card charges, according to the agreement. Well, here's a thought for the future. Think about it, is that you set up a 2-person rule when it comes to depositing checks or handling the finances, that everything can't be signed off by one person. Mm-hmm. You could do that. Might be an idea. To conceal the scheme, Crepper falsified monthly and annual school financial reports, the agreement said. Oof. This is why you have an audit on a regular occasion. You bring in an outside agency to audit the finances.
Ooh. I mean, she's head of the... Who else was going to authorize or bring that forward other than her?
The Archdiocese. She's in charge of the school, but the Archdiocese owns the school.
I guess so.
Yeah, no, okay.
Maybe they trusted her, I guess.
Apparently so. By falsifying these reports in this way, defendant Crepper lulled the St. James School and the administration into believing the school's finances were being properly accounted for and its financial assets properly safeguarded, which in turn allowed defendant Crepper to maintain her access and control of the school's finances and accounts, and thus to continue operating the fraudulent scheme.
Dun, dun, dun.
Crepper also directed school employees, quote, to alter and destroy financial records during a financial audit. So are those people being charged with conspiracy? So they were audited, and she told, no, destroy those things. Like, nobody said anything? Or was that what led to her being caught? Over 10 years, ending with her retirement in September 2018, Crepper admitted in the agreement to embezzling $835,339. Okay, so there were people who were with her on this conspiracy.
Look, that's what I was saying. Like, it was very hard to believe she could have pulled this off by herself.
Well, I'm just wondering, was it the audit that discovered this? Because if the audit came down, and in the course of the audit, they found out that financial records were being destroyed, and that's what exposed her, did they say what finally broke it? They didn't say.
The audit place got a new hire and they didn't get the email.
Oh, Lord. Frosted glass. Hashtag Holy Watergate. No. Thank you, Frosted Glass. And with that, guys, we're going to move on to the wonderful world of MSS News. If you have news stories you'd like us to read on the air, please send them to us via Twitter using the hashtag MSS News. Can't promise we'll get to them all, but I'll give it the old college try. Let's see.
Modern day college try or actual college try?
No, old college try. I said old.
I'm about to say, so you're going to go get a gender study degree and then go bitch at people for
I sure as heck hope not. All right, so this one comes from Gamer Valine, because she gave me a heads up to this earlier in the day, and I said I would make an attempt to bring it up. Excuse me. Retired Army Major General ad in my face. Retired Army Major General reduced to second lieutenant for sex crime conviction. Wait, he had sex crime conviction, and all that happened was he was reduced in rank? I mean, that is, I guess, a major deal for military personnel, but go away. The defense secretary... For crying out loud! Stop it! Good Lord. The defense secretary reduced a retired Army Major General to the rank of second lieutenant after he pleaded guilty last year in a Virginia court to sexually assaulting his daughter while in uniform.
Oh my God.
That's what... Wait. That's all you do to that guy?
Are you fucking serious?
Admittedly, I do not know how deep a dive from Major General to second lieutenant is. But that's it. Okay, does that qualify for court-martial? Like actual court-martial, like drum you the hell out of the military? Because if it doesn't, I'm thinking that maybe you should.
Why do I feel like a bulk of that punishment comes specifically from the while in uniform portion?
Quote, the Secretary of Defense changed the retirement grade of then Major General James J. Grazipolin, United States Army retired to second lieutenant after determining that second lieutenant was the highest grade in which he served on active duty satisfactorily. So, wait. So his punishment is to be knocked down to the rank at which you last knew he was doing his job well. How the hell did he get to Major General if he hadn't been doing his job well after that point? I mean, I presume there's some kind of review as people go up in rank of their service and their record and so on before they get back up there. Or is that when he started abusing his daughter?
That's what I was thinking.
Quote, this action may not be appealed, she wrote. Second Lieutenant whatever the fuck his name is, will maintain any benefits or privileges authorized for retired officers in the grade of second lieutenant. Why? Why does he get anything? Again, I do not know, military regulations and things. I'm just sort of speaking.
Jim said he's retired, so.
Well, great. Let's cut him off at the knees then.
Damn,
thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Daryl Parnass, to be demoted that far. It was a courts-martial. Okay, well, it didn't go far enough. That's all I'm saying. He should have been just cut off completely from. Why should that guy benefit from the service of others and from the taxpayer having I mean, how many years passed between second lieutenant and major general? How many years was he abusing his daughter? Greza, 71, started his military career with a commission at that same rank out of West Point in 1971. He rose to the rank of 2-star general before retiring in 2005. Wait. So, since 1971, how long has he been doing what he's doing? But his daughter, Jennifer Elmore, later brought allegations that through her entire childhood and at various posts, both abroad and in the United States, her father had raped and molested her. Army Times has a policy of not identifying by name survivors of sex crimes. Elmore agreed to be interviewed on multiple occasions and to be identified publicly in articles. The allegations were raised within the family in the years after she left home in the late 1980s, but came to the attention of military officials when Elmore reported the conduct to the Army CID agents at Fort Bragg, North Carolina in 2015. So wait. She talked about it in the 80s. Nothing happened. Brings it up in 2015, and he's only feeling the consequences of it in 2021. Okay, well, that he received any consequences, fine. That's all that happened? Tell me that, criminal charges outside of the military brought against him, I hope. 2 years later, on August 26, 2017, Elmore would confront her father in a military courtroom during his Article 32 preliminary hearing. There, for the first time publicly, she outlined the decades of abuse she suffered. But the military case faltered when a judge ruled the following year that charges couldn't move forward due to a then applicable 3-year statute of limitations in the Uniform Code of Military Justice on rape or assault charges that occurred before 1986. Another statute of limitations, 5 years in such cases that occurred between 86 and 2006, further stymied prosecuting later episodes of abuse. The military case died. That's when Virginia prosecutors, not bound by the statute of limitations for crimes that had allegedly occurred while Zipolin and his family were stationed in the state, took over. In late 2018, a Prince William County grand jury indicted him on 3 rape charges alleged to have happened while the family lived off post in Woodbridge, Virginia, from 87 to 88. The then retired him was arrested and jailed in December 2018, where he remained without bond for the next 18 months. A 2020 trial date was set but pushed off for months due to COVID. Okay. Then on July 8th, 2020, he agreed to plead guilty to aggravated sexual battery and was given time served with a suspended sentence of 20 years. Shortly after the hearing, Elmore told Army Times that the public acknowledgement by her father of what he'd done to her meant everything. Quote, I wasn't interested in retribution. It was not about asking for something other than to have the ability to speak the truth, she said. Okay, well, I just hope that whatever a second lieutenant gets as far as benefits and privileges and so on is the bottom of the barrel minimum. If they can't do any further, if they can't restrict him any farther for whatever, then fine. What a scumbag. Ugh.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up, bro.
Yeah, but that it was all brought up in the 80s and the guy still ascended through the ranks to 2-star general before he retired. Good Lord. Okay. Anyway, boy, tonight's moves is just ticking me off all over the place. This one comes from Check Your Logic. Let's bring this up here. Yes, that's the right tab. Let me close off these other tabs so I don't get confused again. They were denied diplomas and blocked from crossing the stage for how they celebrated graduation.
Oh boy, here we go. Let me guess. Let me guess. There was a list of rules clearly stated beforehand, and they said, "Fuck these rules. We're going to do what we want." And then when they got, punished for it, they're like, "What happened? How could this happen to me?"
Okay, and I'll add to that and just say, because whatever it was that they did, either acted within or was wrapped within a social or political statement,
right,
they are being oppressed unfairly. Okay, that's my guess. Devarius Peters wanted to celebrate graduation day wearing a pair of black leather Alexander McQueen shoes. Who's Alexander McQueen?
Who the fuck knows?
Okay. Ashley Saucedo and Ever Lopez, both graduates of different schools in different states, wanted to carry the Mexican flag to honor their roots. Okay, well, let me point out that at least in the second story in that duet there, the guy wore the flag as a piece of clothing instead of his graduation gown. And the shoes are as well a piece of clothing. What do these things have in common? What do these things possibly run up into when it comes to official ceremonies at schools? Dress codes. But for all three students, their plans were thwarted by school officials who denied them their diplomas and blocked the high school graduates from crossing the stage. Each school said the graduates were violating a school policy and refused to make an exception, even as their families watched from the audience. In Peter's case, a teacher, John Butler, traded shoes with him so he could walk. Oh, so once he had the appropriate clothing on, everything went fine. They were oppressing him because of his shoes. Okay. The incidents have garnered national attention for some reason, with some educators, experts, and community advocates saying these are just the latest examples of young people of color being punished for how they celebrate graduation.
Oh my God, man.
Similar incidents have gone viral in the past, including in 2018 when a group of black students at the University of Florida were rushed off stage for doing a short celebratory dance at their commencement ceremony.
Yes, because it slows down the whole fucking process. And oh my God, see, I had the same issue at my graduation where they said beforehand, when the entire thing started, we're going to call everybody through. There's a fuck ton of students. This is going to be way longer than it needs to be. So please, everybody, save your applause until it's over.
Yep.
The first fucking person that came out, motherfuckers was screaming in the stands. They're just like, okay, once again, guys, I know you're excited, but please, when you do this, we can't say the name of the next person. We have to wait until you shut the fuck up so we can announce the next person. You are interfering with the process. So just wait.
Yeah. And
they couldn't do it.
Yeah. And here's the thing. You are no more special than everybody else here graduating. You all achieved the same thing. Have respect.
Yeah,
that's
they could not do it.
This is why they have the rules. So things that do not distract, things that do not slow down, things do not take away from other people's day. Because it's not just about you.
Right.
Anyway, now some critics, including a grassroots group in North Carolina where Lopez lives, are urging schools to reevaluate their policies, saying students should be allowed to show pride in their culture and identity at graduation ceremonies. They can do that on their own time. This is not just their day. This is a ceremony for more than them.
Right. They have plenty of fucking things that happen after graduation where you can express yourself any way you want. Yeah. But there's a process, and it exists for a reason. If you want to if every fucking person decided to do a dance number after they got their diploma, y'all be there all fucking day. Like, what the hell?
But not only that, I mean, there is supposed to be a kind of unity in the achievement of it.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to celebrate however you want to celebrate after, that's fine. This ceremony is for everyone, not you. Many Latino students are the first in their families to graduate and have endured being criminalized, fought to stay out of the school to prison pipeline.
Oh my God.
You know what fighting to stay out of the school prison pipeline is, Satsu? You know what that looks like?
Yes.
Not committing crimes. I know it's a big revelation, but here's the thing. If you want to avoid the quote-unquote school to prison pipelines, don't commit crimes. Every video that I've done talking about the school to prison pipeline brings up some example of someone where they so downplay what actually set them on the path to end up in prison or under police suspicion that you'd have to wonder, golly, I guess they're just swooping them up off the street for no reason and throwing them into cells. It's not how that works. Fought to stay out of the school to prison pipeline, which, by the way, is a conspiracy theory. If you ever hear the words mass incarceration or school to prison pipeline, those are conspiracy theories. Now, as I said before, a conspiracy theory, just using that term, does not necessarily mean something is false. You could have a conspiracy theory about Watergate and be absolutely right.
Right.
However, these are conspiracy theories without any foundation. They are just buzzwords thrown around as though simply saying them makes them true. But whenever you actually listen to people who promote these things, they fall apart with some very simple questions or them glossing over some very simple questions.
Yeah, because they'll give you a whole sob story, a whole 10-minute sob story about how this person just wanted to live their life and they were doing their thing and they were existing while being a certain color and, you know, just all these misfortunes just befell them. And then at the end, they'll be like, well, I mean, they did hold 3 people at gunpoint, but that still doesn't cover the actual issue here. And I'm just like, oh my God.
And here's the other thing. Pop quiz, Satsu. Can you think of a particular demographic that almost is never mentioned when discussing the school to prison pipeline process?
Would you be referring to the whites?
No.
No?
The parents.
That's, yeah.
The role, presence, and involvement of the parents is almost never mentioned in any of the school to prison pipeline things I've seen, or anything dealing with youthful offenders. It's almost like with listening to teachers talk about how they are now the gurus for how children are supposed to be taught to be activists and so on. You never hear the parents brought up. It's always the system is doing this to the children. They have no choice. They just end up criminalized by the school. Anyway, I'm going to move on from this one because it is what you would expect and everything that I've heard otherwise. And they even said it in here. The guy gave him the proper pair of shoes and he walked. They weren't suppressing him or anything. Oh, my cultural shoes were being oppressed. No, the dress code was being enforced, just like with every other student there. If somebody had shown up at graduation wearing a clown outfit, and even if they had said, my father was a clown, my grandfather was a clown, my entire family belongs to the circus, they would have not let him go through.
Yeah, well, and on the other hand, too, just like when it comes to like issues with, for example, like the dreadlocks thing, they're just like, this is specifically for black people. I'm like, okay, so if a white person walked in with dreadlocks, they'd be like, oh, you check out, you're white, so it's cool. Like, no, that's not how it would fucking work. If some white person came in there, you know, wrapping himself in whatever fucking European flag he wanted to wrap himself in, they'd still be like, you can't do that. They wouldn't be like, oh, no, it's fine because you're white, which is the way it's presented. They're just like, oh, well, he's black, so it's a problem. I'm like, no, he's literally doing something he shouldn't be doing. That's it. That's all there is to it.
All right, we're going to move on to Frosted Glass, whose new home is Salon. Laughing at Trump's backward pants won't save us from the 21st century gulag. You know, I took a class in college, Linguistics 101 class for a prerequisite or something. And we at one point watched a video, and in this video was George Carlin. And George Carlin, the comedian, I don't remember exactly what he said, but the point he made about language was that he just said something. He said something like, the blue gorilla is currently in my pocket, creating a sculpture of a giraffe or something like that. He says, I can tell you that no human being on the planet to this point has ever said those words out loud in that sequence before. That is the wonderment of language. We can hear something absolutely new and original every day. This headline falls into that category, because I would never have imagined in my entire life that those words would be strung together or what it is even meant to mean. But hey, there you go. Liberal schadenfreude hits new low with Trump trousers trutherism. Meanwhile, his forces are destroying democracy.
Destroying democracy. The very intact thing that's still taking place right now with your president in office.
Boy. I have to, and I'm hoping for this. I really am hoping for this. I'm hoping that in the midterms, ideally in all, but at least in several of the states that have passed purportedly new voting restrictions, I really do hope that there is at least a balanced or a significant number of Democrats that win. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
That would be hilarious. And not because I'm pro-Democrat necessarily, but just because it would be funny to have them try to explain that one.
Yeah. What's the explanation? Anyway. So you utilize those racist policies and mechanisms that were built specifically to help the Republicans win to help you cheat, because that would be the only explanation, right?
Last Saturday, Donald Trump made the first stop on his 2021 revenge tour.
Revenge tour.
Okay, making his first large-scale public appearance before his cult members since the January coup attempt and his followers attack.
Yeesh.
You call that a coup attempt? Of all the hyperbole, a coup? Man, that... I hope that is the best coup that we ever see.
Yeah,
out of anybody in this country, because man,
that's the pinnacle.
That is some weak sauce coup attempt.
Well, just imagine all the other countries and shit who are just like, really? Like, because they're asking like, well, America had a coup? That's insane. And then they explain the details and they're like, are you fucking kidding?
Yeah.
Like, really? That's what happened? So one of their own got killed and they accomplished absolutely nothing. There was hardly any injuries to be spoken of based on the amount of people that were there. And they just went home and they're all being prosecuted. Their president didn't win. That was the word. That was the biggest thing that's ever happened. Holy fuck. Yeah.
During a speech at the North Carolina Republican Party convention, Trump continued telling the big lie about the 2020 election, claiming it was stolen from him and therefore from the Republican Party and its voters. He claimed that the Biden administration has already failed, which is true only to the extent that Biden's agenda has been blocked by Republican intransigence.
Yeah. That didn't stop him from writing 50 fucking executive orders.
Mm-hmm. Thinking on Vitae Rex destroying democracy. Well, thank God we're a representative republic. We would be in trouble otherwise. Oh, smart guy. Yeah, so I got to ask, and I don't know, how many articles Salon did attacking the Democrats in the past 4 years for continuing to tell the big lie that Trump was a Russian puppet and that Putin got him the election. Are we, we're going to a little fair play there or anything? But anyway, Trump's malignant narcissism was on full display as he took undeserved credit for the coronavirus vaccines.
You mean the vaccine that him and him alone, the only fucking person, as far as politicians were concerned, was absolutely saying without a doubt that we would receive the vaccines before the prescribed time that everybody else was saying. And we did it almost exactly when he said so. And the entirety of the media and every other politician was like, nope, it's impossible. And during a live presidential debate that was televised across the entire world, he said, no, that's not true. I know we're going to get them early. And the fucking person who was set there to moderate it debated him live. And for whatever reason, motherfuckers went straight up amnesia and don't remember that happening. I don't get it. How do we live in this world?
And the other one I always remember is the notifications to the state agencies to prepare themselves for distribution systems, and the criticism that was thrown at Trump for like, why are you wasting time, or why are you putting people's hopes up, or what point is this? The vaccine's not going to be available for years or something. Look, again, it's not a matter of being a Trump supporter other than just looking at reality and deciding that you're going to ignore it and then turn it around as a criticism. That's bullshit. You know, if Joe Biden brought peace to the Middle East tomorrow with the snap of his fingers, I would be praising Joe Biden until the day I die. It doesn't matter who does it. It matters about whether or not they do it and get it done. And Trump started everything rolling way before anybody thought it could be done. And even if you can't, you cannot credit Trump with creating the vaccine.
Obviously.
But you cannot slight the guy for promoting the idea that things would go quickly. And he did. And he wasn't wrong. And you guys keep saying he had undeserved credit. Well, what credit does he deserve? He took undeserved credit. Now, granted, I don't know exactly what Trump, if Trump said, I made the vaccine happen, well, I mean, the Operation Warp Speed that pushed everything forward, that was his administration.
You mean the operation that didn't exist when Biden got into office? Because remember, when Biden got into office, even though Operation Warp Speed had been initiated and already in full effect, he walked into the office and said there was nothing in place. No plan. We had to start over. We had to start completely from scratch. There was nothing. Trump did nothing.
There was no plan. There was no infrastructure. There was nothing. Oh, we came in here with nothing. And even Fauci had to say, well, there was a plan.
Yeah, Fauci was like, that's bullshit. There absolutely was a plan. Like we were literally in the middle of it.
And you know what? Whatever's going on with Trump, honestly, unless or until he decides to run for office again, he's just a fundraiser at this point and a cheerleader. That's it. I mean, Donald Trump could get up on a stage and accidentally shit his pants, and I wouldn't care at this point. I just don't.
And the tripped out part is too, Donald Trump, as far as I'm concerned, has virtually no way to like just come back and rejoin the election and try to win. But the media, it almost seems like they're making it. They're trying to make it as possible for him as they can.
They're trying to will it into existence. They would love it.
Yeah, they're like, dude, we need to make this happen.
They would love it. All their ratings have taken such a dive since he stopped being president. People have stopped paying attention. Biden is boring, even though he's been relatively terrible so far, but nobody's going to say that because he's not Trump. They would love it if he got back into politics. They would have a field day. They would make so much ad money on clickbait.
And that's why they've been trying to will it to be. Like no reasonable person is just like, yeah, he's got a 100% shot. Like if he runs again, he's going to win for sure. Like it's definitely going to be a challenge, but I swear to God, the media is like, we got to back this dude, man. And the best way to back Trump is the same way he got elected before, is to unapologetically say bullshit that's not true about him and keep him in the limelight as much as possible. And they're like, it worked last time. It has to work now.
Let's see. This one comes from Tall Person. Not the story I like to read, but it is a thing that happened. Michigan man allegedly shoots boy 6 for retrieving bike on his yard.
God damn, dude.
Ryan Lee Wynn of Ypsilanti Township faces charges of assault with intent to murder, assault with intent to do bodily harm, and 2 firearms charges. Go away. A 6-year-old boy was injured on Sunday afternoon after a neighbor allegedly shot him in the arm while he was playing. Ryan Lee Nguyen, whatever, of Ypsilanti Township faces charges of assault with intent to murder. Yeah. According to charging documents obtained by M Live, Kobe Daniel was outside playing with 2 young relatives at about 4:30 p.m. on June 6th. Police allege that Lee Nguyen heard the children's noise and came outside holding a sledgehammer After Lee Win allegedly told the children to leave, Kobe stepped back into his yard to get his bike. That's when police say Lee Win fired a round through his window, striking the boy in the arm. Kobe's injury was non-life-threatening, and he is expected to fully recover. Quote, he tried hitting me with a sledgehammer, but that's not going to work because I'm too fast. Kobe tells Fox 2 News. He got a gun and boom, shot me right there. Video obtained by Fox 2 shows the boy picking up his bike outside Lee Win's house. A shot is fired, and several children start screaming and running away. One child is heard yelling he got shot. Authorities arrested Lee Win. His bond was initially set at $10,000, an amount harshly criticized by County Prosecutor Eli Savitt on a Facebook video. Prosecutors filed an emergency motion to raise the bond. On Thursday afternoon, a different judge heard the case and said that additional facts had been presented, including alleged previous threats against the child. You know what? I wouldn't care if there were alleged previous threats against the child. He shot a kid in the arm for no reason. I don't need additional facts. He shot an innocent child, unarmed, not causing him any threat whatsoever. $10,000 bond? They raised the bond to $100,000 and ordered him to turn himself in. The new bail amount is a cash bond, meaning that Lee Win will need to come up with the entire $100,000, not just 10%. Yeah. He is now back in custody. Jesus. What a lunatic.
That's what a fucking reaction. Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah, he watched Gran Torino a few many times, but took away the wrong lesson.
Yeah, get off my lawn. Okay, allow me to retrieve the transportation I need to get away from your yard even faster. Nope, bang. Like, are you fucking serious?
Anyway, guys, we're going to move on. Thank you so much for all these stories. Appreciate it. Sorry I didn't get to them all, but I went through as many as I could. Let's move on to YouTube time. I've kind of already talked about what I've been up to. So just to reiterate, yes, spoiler alert, today's TED Excellence, which started auspiciously with a little bit of a disaster at the beginning. You'll have to watch the stream to know. And a couple others as things went along. It's almost like the whole thing was cursed. And by the end of it, we had our very first, after over a year of doing live TED Excellences and at least a year or so of having a bingo card as part of the show. Total blackout. Filled up the entire cart. Blew my mind. But was about as legitimate an event as, if you watch the stream, I was struggling there in a couple. I was being really hesitant. Like, well, did she? I mean, again, it was one of those things where, like, in the aggregate over the entirety of the presentation, she hit on every point, either literally or just thematically. And it happened. So there you go. One for the history books, as it were. That version of the bingo card has been retired. I have jumbled up the squares again for a new card C and put it into the description that I copy and paste for every TED Excellence. So that one will never be used again. I have it saved. I'm not quite sure what I want to do with it yet, if anything. Some people have suggested I turn it into a T-shirt for the merch store. I might do that just for the hell of it, if anybody actually wants a TED Excellence bingo blackout card. But that was... did I play the Sounder Pirates Creed? Did I play the blackout event thing? Boy, howdy.
Oh my God! Hallelujah! Holy shit! What? Where's the Tylenol?
Yep. And I swear, after that, I'm never going to play that again unless or until we hit another blackout, which, fingers crossed, for the sake of my sanity and everybody else's, doesn't happen ever. But it was this one. I mean, just, boy, I know how to pick them, don't I?
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, I did not imagine that this thing was going to be, I thought it was going to be just another, I mean, I've done a couple of videos in the past, TEDx or otherwise, about, thin privilege or fat phobia or that kind of thing. And I wasn't quite sure where it was going to go. Man. And that, And I got to say, all joking aside for the moment at least, if you think pragmatically about what that lady was talking about and referring to herself and everything, she comes across as a very sort of sad figure. No, God, it happened again. I didn't mean. I swear, there's just no way around. Anyway, her desperation to find any way to excuse herself of the responsibility for her own bodily health, it almost came across as pathological. It really did over the course of that presentation. Now, admittedly, the presentation is just a small snippet of somebody's opinion and perspective. I do not know the lady's life. I do not know her personally. All I've got is the presentation. But within the realm of that presentation, she was fighting very, very, very hard to look for any reason not to take responsibility for her own feelings, her own self-esteem, her own health outcomes, and so on. And it was kind of remarkable. It's not something that I have never seen before. I've seen plenty of people do everything they can to avoid personal responsibility. But in this case, it was so very finely focused. And obviously, because of all the ground it covered, all encompassing, just like every part of reality was held within her worldview. It's just amazing. Anyway, so that was that. As far as anything upcoming, Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, I'll be doing part 4, the final part to my look at the 2010 panel discussion, such as it was, at Oregon State University on critical race theory. We are currently in question time and have approximately a half an hour worth of the original recording left, which should put me in good stead to be done within an hour and a half or so. But even if I go over that, I will, to finish off the whole thing and make it a 4-parter. So look forward to that. And beyond that, nothing that I have planned that I would be able to speak of at present. So that's all I got. Satsu, what have you been up to?
Well, I recorded and finished editing a cooking video today to kind of get ahead of the game here, because that'll be coming out on Friday, as I've been designating Friday as my upload day for cooking videos. I grabbed my camera and put my memory card into my computer to see like how much backed up stuff I have that I haven't checked out or done anything with yet. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's like 12 videos in here. So just like, because like I said, I have been kind of committing to recording everything and not really worrying too much about like, I don't want to say quality because I haven't been like just ignoring it, but I've just kind of been like, I'm just going to record this while I'm doing it to the very best of my ability and then see if the stuff is salvageable afterwards. Like I'm not going to sweat the small stuff or try to, do too much extra shit that makes this more tedious than it needs to be. So consequently, some of like I probably threw away like 4 or 5 video or possible videos that could have been used. But I end up getting a lot more content done this way. So it works out in its own way. But worked, like I said, edited, did the audio and all that good stuff. So that'll be going up, which, like I said, Friday. And the concept of this one was very interesting because I was just like, I've never thought to do this before. So let me give it a shot. And it kind of worked out because I was like, wow, it's something that's very simple and just like, well, why wouldn't you think to do something like this? But there you go. So you guys will see that when that comes out. Outside of that, I'm almost done with the 7 days video. The problem though is, like I told you, I've been crypto mining on my computer, and the only game that really runs on my computer while mining is Final Fantasy, which runs perfectly. Like there's no, you'd think I wasn't doing anything extra on my computer. But when I play games like 7 days or pretty much anything else, my computer is just like, nah, bruh, you're going to have to pick. You either mining or you doing this. So sometimes I'll be like, I should work on this video, but I'm like, but I don't want to stop my miners. So that's been kind of a thing that's going on. So we'll see how that pans out. But I'm probably going to use the time after the stream to work on trying to finish the video. And I actually thought about streaming it, like my actual making of said video.
Yeah.
You know, just to kind of have some company. So who knows? We'll see.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeanette. Hello, story time. I met a guy on Bumble, and it turned out to be a quote-unquote nice guy.
Oh.
He was perfectly fine in the beginning, but he turned feral when I rejected him. Let's just say I'm done with online dates. I'm sorry to hear that, Jeanette. Your trials and tribulations of dating thus far. I have high hopes every time you've mentioned it, and then that sucks. I'm sorry. Have you ever been on an online date, Satsu? I mean, I've talked about my experiences before.
No.
No?
I actually haven't been on an online date before.
Yeah, I've been on, let's see, it hasn't been that many. Let's see, there was that lady, and then her, and her. Yeah. I think I'm right in saying 8 over my whole life. Oh,
Okay.
wait, no, wait, 9. That's right, because of, yeah. So, yeah, 9 total, and that's starting from 2003 to now, because I had my first online date just after college ended for me to this point. I haven't been on an online date in 3 or 4 years now. So yeah, in that span of time, 9 different things, and only out of those 9, only 2 resulted in. No, 3 resulted in seeing the person more than once, and none of those 3 lasted more than about a month of quote unquote dating. And some of those were absolute disasters. And of course, there was the one weird one where the match was 99%, and it was like having lunch with myself, which was bizarre. I've told that story before. It was really. I've described it as walking outside into room temperature. You know how you ever had that bizarre experience where you walk outside and you feel absolutely no difference between outside and inside?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of disconcerting for a minute because sort of your instinct says there should be either a drop or a rise in temperature, depending, but there's just nothing. Yeah, that's how that was. It was that sort of like comfortable but awkward, something's wrong. Sort of atmosphere.
This is too comfortable.
Yeah, this is just so what do you think about? Oh, you think the same thing I do. Okay.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what else I described that feeling as? Walking into one of those the cul-de-sac areas where it's like, you know, the pristine, clean street. It's got that nice curve on there in the end with all the nice houses on there, and I'm just like, yeah, something's about to pop off.
Yeah, something's wrong here. This does not feel real. This feels manufactured. What?
Fucking rabbits and shit everywhere. You like, the zombie apocalypse is right around the corner. Yep.
Yeah. No. I can't say every online dating experience was terrible, but there were a lot more sort of one-off. This isn't working. And then there was like a very small handful where maybe something might have, but failure to launch. Let's see. Oh, and Jeanette says, Scribe Light, I felt that too after I spoke to him. The whole room temperature thing. Yeah. I mean, if you've never experienced it before, it's one of those things where you don't know. It's literally the most neutral sensation to have when interacting with someone, because could it be good? Could it be bad? You have no barometer. You don't have a sense for what it is. So it's, at least in my experience, I was always kind of like, in the course of the date, if you can imagine it this way, I was kind of just kept inching forward a little bit because I wasn't sure what was going on. Was there just an absolute absence of chemistry, or is this the perfect balance of chemistry? Like, I don't know. It was weird.
I had actually had an interesting thought about that concept in general, where it's like people who look for people who are like them Like I want to date somebody who's just like me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't like themselves.
Mm. So they
And
don't
I'm
like
just
you.
like, yeah, I'm just like, have you ever actually thought about how ridiculous that is? It's like, because if you don't like the things about yourself that you find problematic, you're not going to like them in somebody else, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, my first sort of filtering thought when it comes to finding a partner is, or at least I guess my ideal first step is to know about this person before anything else starts, that they are wanting a relationship. They are not needing a relationship.
right.
Because I've encountered many people in my life, and then this isn't necessarily a slight against them, but it's just something that's a red flag for me. Many people in my life who have never really experienced life on their own, both emotionally and or financially, and see being in a relationship as a must-have attachment, regardless of quality necessarily, but just to have it there.
Mhm.
And that's always, like I say, it's a red flag. It makes me go. So, ideally, I'd find somebody who is already in a situation where if they were alone for the rest of their life, more or less, they have the mentality and the skills to stand on their own 2 feet. Because I've, for the most part, I mean, nobody's perfect, obviously, but for the most part, I'm self-sufficient. And I would hope to find that in somebody first, so that I don't have to be the entire world that they lean upon to exist, or vice versa. And that we at least have the shared experience of finding our independence before looking for something more to enhance it. That's a little bit of Scribe philosophy. Accept it. Don't. It's up to you. I don't know. Officer Buck, thank you. Hello, host A, host B, and chat C. D's nuts. Sorry. You're just running out of steam, aren't you? Like, how many different ways can you mispronounce our titles or whatever else? Okay, well, A for effort, as I'm host A. That's all I can give. Let's see. Oh, I'll just do sort of enhanced chat time tonight on this one. Jeanette says, there was no warmth anywhere. I knew something was up. Ah, okay. Well, your instinct served you well, thankfully. Ebony Williams matched with a guy on Tinder in college. We were supposed to meet twice, and he never showed either time. Well, that sucks. Being stood up, it's both sad and irritating. I guess those are mild ways of putting it, depending on the circumstances. But yeah, I was stood up once, but not by someone I was like not like by a blind date or something, but someone I had been dating. Like we had a plan. I remember this very specifically. We had a date to go see Shanghai Noon. This dates me quite a bit here. Anyway, so we're gonna go see Shanghai, and she just didn't show up. She was supposed to pick me up from work, and never there. And I waited outside the building for better part of an hour. And I called her, no response. Called, no call back. I eventually walked home and then searched through and found the number for her mother, who I had somewhere. And I called her mom and said, have you heard from her? I don't know what's going on. She says, no, I haven't. And so for the next day, I was honestly concerned that she had crashed her car or something. I had no information whatsoever. No emails, no phone calls, no contact. Out of the blue, like about a day, like from the time that we were supposed to meet up to into the evening of the next day, didn't hear a word. And then suddenly I get a phone call from her. And I'm like, oh my God, what the happened? Are you okay? And I was just freaked out because the entire day I was worrying. I was at work and I was just worried my head off, and I didn't hear from her. I called her a couple of times. And do you know what she did? Satsu?
Well, in my experience, she got mad.
No. This is a million miles worse.
Oh, damn.
So apparently, all right, this might be a little TMI, maybe not too much. Anyway, a night or two, the weekend before this happened, we were getting ready to go to a club back when I went to clubs and things. And all day and the day before, she had been just like bugging me. We have to get to the club on time. This is happening. This is happening. This is happening. She had instilled in me this sort of like, time crunch. Okay, we got to leave now because of traffic. 5 minutes before we're supposed to leave, she starts coming on to me like she wants to fool around. Now, given her intensity on keeping to the schedule the last 2 days, I took it as a joke, right? I took it as her kidding. That was apparently my fatal mistake. Because taking that as the greatest offense that one could ever have, she decided to stand me up at our scheduled date and instead go spend a day and a half, or actually more so because I was working the day before, we were supposed to meet up, with a couple she had met at the club that night. She was out having three-way for a day and a half or whatever to spite me. I am not making this up. And that was where the relationship ended abruptly.
You should have fucked her, Scribe.
Thank you, Jeanette. I'll be honest. I thought he was going to call me the N-word. It was almost that bad. Holy cats.
Oh, wow.
Damn, yeah, you dodged a bullet with that one. Good Lord. Well, I'm glad that guy's going to be out of your life now. But yeah, no, that is a thing that actually happened. At least that's what she told me. And I had met them at the club the night of or whatever. They were just like friends of friends kind of thing. I didn't really give them a second thought or whatever. And then she told me that story. I was like, what? I mean, it was just the most beyond sort of action you could take for something. And here's the thing. After I turned her down that night thinking it was a joke, she didn't say anything about it.
Oh, of course not.
No, she didn't say a word.
Why would she say something about it?
No, I mean, she gave me sort of like a little, I don't know, whiny kind of reaction or something. But again, I just thought that she was pulling my leg in relation to she was rabid about getting to the thing on time for the 2 days prior. So this was not just me sort of like blowing it off or something. I honestly, in comparison to everything else, I was just kind of like, oh, come on, let's go.
I guess we different breeds, because I'd have read that differently. Like if she was straight up rabid about going, and then all of a sudden she's like reaching at my pants, I'm like, oh yeah, she's changed her mind. This is what she wants to do now, and I'm like, I will oblige.
It just honestly, all things considered, in the moment and everything, and being that it was just like minutes before we were supposed to leave. Yeah, okay. Obviously, I misread it, but here's the thing. I'm kind of glad I did.
Well, yeah,
because if that was what was lurking in the dark heart of this person as a reaction to something that is, in relative terms, not that big of a deal. Yeah, that was so long. Goodbye.
Oh yeah,
but that was a rough one. That was rough. Yeah, and it would not be the last time that, and I'm not going to go into the rest of it, but it would not be the last time that somebody I was dating decided to just sort of toss aside any thought of the person that they were dating and go off and have a dalliance and then tell me after the fact. I've had a very, very rough record with people, honesty, loyalty, and so on in my relatively recent past. And thus,
as have I.
It's really lent itself to why I'm still single. Let's see. Original Shroom says, on my birthday, I went to pick up my date only to walk in on her having sex with a mutual friend. Oh, Lord. Well, I've had some, maybe not that direct, but my best friend ending up finagling my girlfriend away, and her agreeing to it, of course, was a thing that happened at one point. yeah, it was. I have a lot of trust issues. I have a lot of, and it's one of those things where it's like, after each one of these failures in friendship or relation or like romantic relationship or something, I really do make sure to stop and say, okay, dude, no man is an island. Where is your culpability in this? Right? I mean, did you do something wrong? Did you not communicate? I mean, it's entirely possible to be completely blindsided by someone who's just lying their ass off at you and everything, and you're completely an innocent actor in the whole thing. It's possible. But I never just automatically assume that that's the case. So I always review, okay.
Well, yeah, a teacher a long time of mine taught me a very valuable lesson of just entertaining the possibility.
Yes. Yeah.
Just even if you are 100% certain you're right, always entertain the possibility that you could be wrong.
Yes, exactly.
Just out of practice.
Yeah. and there's a healthy amount of self-criticism or self-analysis to be had. I have gone far overboard over the course of my entire life. I mentioned this on the TEDx today in a sort of a different fashion. And but yeah, so in every instance, I always stopped and said, okay, where is the line drawn between their responsibility for what just happened and my either feeding into it, contributing to it, or asking for it in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not going to go into all the details, but save for not seeing the signs sooner that something was wrong, which is usually like, well, if something's wrong, and I did this after the first time where I got completely blindsided. I told my next relationship, I says, look, what happened with, previous girl. If something isn't working, just tell me. I mean, it's going to hurt either way, but I would rather have honesty than find out after the fact, right? And I've always compared it to, I've said this one before as well, I'm sure. You take a photo album that represents all of your memories of your relationship with this person, right? And when they blindside you and they let you know that something else has been going on or whatever else, it's like you take a big jug of oil and just dump it all over in between the pages and all around the cover of the photo album, because at that point you don't know where the lie began.
Mm-hmm.
Every memory is tainted with doubt, and the whole thing becomes poisoned. And that's what happened both in romantic relationships and with friend relationships. And it's the worst thing ever. I would rather somebody tell me at the point where something's gone off course that things have gone off course, because at least then I would know. And either maybe I can do something about it, maybe something can be done, or at least there'll be a clean break. But that's not what has happened over and over again. And so even though it might sound self-serving, in most of the situations that I've had my heart broken, it's 90% them, and I just end up being the person that trusted and in hindsight, the signs that told me I should ask questions. It's always hindsight's 2020. So anyway, not to dwell too much on that because it is question time. Let's see. Chatmort says, still sounds like you dodged some bullets. At least those things happen before the relationship progressed way further. Maybe you're talking to Jeanette and Ebony, because I got skunked too many times. Jeanette, Scribe, I've met a guy who was hot and nice. We planned to watch a drive-in movie. We ended up having sex in his car, and he broke it off before the second date. Oh, that sucks. Oh boy, yeah. This has elicited everybody's stories. Sean Uli, to get through that flashpoint. Why don't you get someone in one of those good classes come help you beat the boss? I'd help if I still played. It's not a co-op. It's a single player. It's a solo. You can't bring in somebody else. Maybe that option unlocks after you've completed it on solo mode, but you can't go in with another person. You can't team up. That would have been my first solution, but you can't do it. You are stuck with the AI companion whatever, role you put them in. I have to put it into healer because I'm playing DPS. And when that point comes in the deal, there's almost, if there's a way around it, I don't know. After 10 different attempts and 10 different ways of trying to do it, I just got nailed. And I might be a little rusty at the whole MMO raid type thing. I'm not that rusty. So if there was a way if there was a pattern to it, if there was a safe spot, if there was a strategy of where I should move to avoid this, it's not there. It's not there. So either that or the thing telegraphs it so terribly. But I've looked up online and there's just been complaint after complaint after complaint about it. So I'm not alone. So for the time being, I've just kind of given up on it until I hear otherwise. Thankfully, I have other alts I can do other things with if I'm that hard up for activity. Okay, on to question time, guys. If you have questions, comments, concerns, complaints,
Are you okay?
If you have questions, concerns, complaints, conspiracy theories, put them into the chat now. If you have questions for us directly, please put plenty of chat marks after those. If you have statements for us to consider, please put plenty of statement marks after those. If you don't know what those are, ask your friendly neighborhood chat partner and they will tell you. See, when I slow down, I actually say what I mean and sound coherent.
Ironically enough, that didn't sound like you slowed down.
I slowed down my energy level a little bit.
So you went from 9,000 away.
It's over 9,000. Thank you, Non-Vitae Rex. How much damage to a fictional universe does the introduction of predeterminism do? Can you continue to be invested in characters if ultimately their choices don't matter, their fates are sealed? I presume you're talking about Loki. But thank you, Non-Vitae Rex. Okay, so I was given a bit of a perspective on the show that is a very good point in counter to my concerns. So, for those of you that know or care, the Loki show started. I did a little rant on it. One of the biggest problems I found with it is that it states in the show that all the events that have occurred in the Marvel Universe to this point are all decided upon by an abstract trio of timekeepers, and no variance from their determined timeline is allowed to occur, therefore eliminating the notion of free will in the Marvel Universe, taking away the agency of the characters, and also in a lot of ways kind of nullifying the sacrifices or whatever of several characters. I was thrown an idea today by the YouTube channel Screen Crush, who does a lot of videos on Star Wars and Marvel and stuff, doing theories and Easter egg spots and all this kind of thing. And the host of that show, Ryan Airy, he put out a notion that I had not considered. And here's that notion. The plot of the show ostensibly is that the Loki that we are following is being used by the agency to chase down other Lokis throughout history. Other Lokis throughout history who are causing trouble and causing deviations in the timeline. And so, the notion that was thrown to me that kind of, at least potentially, acts as a salve to my wound is that Loki will win in the course of this show, as in the various Lokis will disrupt the timeline at different points in history to the extent that Loki is responsible for creating the multiverse because he causes so many problems that cannot be fixed that we will end up with a multiverse in the Marvel Universe as a result of this. And that the TVA, the agency that's controlling time, will effectively fall apart or become defunct as a result. That kind of makes me go, okay, so this show might be sort of the instigator for the multiverse. Of course, that begs the question then, how did Doctor Strange look at 4 million different possible outcomes to the future when Endgame was going on if there wasn't already a multiverse, et cetera, et cetera? I don't know. It's contradictions or things like that. But insofar as the Loki show is concerned, it may be the vehicle that opens up the what ifs of the Marvel Universe and everything else. Either way, there will have to be a multiverse because the next Doctor Strange movie is called The Multiverse of Madness. And they have to explain how Spider-Man is going to disappear from the MCU and end up in the Sony CU or whatever they're going to call it. So that is I just want to put that out there because I was given that idea today and it made me reconsider my sort of reflexive anger during my rant. And I will take that into consideration as the series proceeds. So thank you, Gamer Valine. That general reduced in rank may be limited by U.S. code. Also, it's about $8,200 a month reduction in pay from 08 to 01 with over 32 years of service. Okay, like I say, I understand that from Major General down to where he exited West Point from is major demotion. No pun intended, but tonight's the night of puns anyway. All the same, for having been abusing and raping his daughter since basically he became a lieutenant, whatever it was, that he gets anything at all from the federal government seems to me to be an insult. But again, within the rules that exist, if that's the best that they can do, that's the best that they can do. He's a scumbag, and I hope he gets everything that's coming to him one way or the other. But yeah, thank you, Gamer Valine. I didn't know all the details. I have family in the military, but I do not claim to know how it all works. Let's see. Dr. Keeve, Satsu, how long did your graduation end up being?
Much fucking longer than it should have been. Because they had to stop every other person to tell people like to stop fucking screaming like psychopaths every time it happened. And I was just like, and I was so embarrassed too, because I'm just like, God damn, like y'all are just like ruining this whole fucking experience.
Frosted Glass, what's a good way to avoid cliches and ripoffs when writing? Yeah, I know nothing is truly original. My reflexive response is when you get to a decision point where something's going to happen, find a way where nobody leaves the situation happy, but everybody gets a little bit of something that they want. Which is kind of how life works. Can't tell you how to apply that to every situation or whatever else, but yeah, I mean, life rarely operates in the big cinematic ways in movies where you have the dramatic reveal or this, that, or the other. Depends on what kind of story you're writing and so on. But and also the other thing too is to create characters with enough depth to them that they're not necessarily going to act in the way one might expect given a certain situation, that they have motivations that maybe they conflict with one another. And so when they come across one situation versus the next, they might act completely contrary to what they would have otherwise. As long as you have an established explanation for that, one that is either shown beforehand or clearly explained later, you leave the audience guessing in the way that people are not predictable all the time. So that's my advice. Is this advice that I take for myself? Fuck no. Anyway, let's see. No one nowhere. Don't the multiple stones in a drawer already suggest verses? Well, this is the theory given to me by Screen Crush. I credit Screen Crush for sort of like calming me down a little bit today, in that, as explained in Endgame, the different timelines are only created because the Infinity Stones guide time, or that they collectively do this. And so when an Infinity Stone goes off into a place that it shouldn't, or deviates from where it should be, that's when it creates an alternate timeline where there is now a new set of Infinity Stones that are defunct once they are retrieved because they only control that universe that they belong to. I know, it's comic book logic. So anyway, having depowered Infinity Stones that have no power in a universe they don't belong to makes a kind of sense, I suppose. Again, I'm doing my best to try to give Marvel the benefit of the doubt once again, because I keep thinking, Daredevil was a good series. Luke Cage was so-so. Iron Fist was garbage. Jessica Jones was garbage. So you have to take each series on its own merits. WandaVision was all right. Kind of a disappointing ending. Falcon and Winter Soldier was a constant source of just ridiculousness and stupidity. Loki's got one episode in. My fingers are crossed. What can I tell you? Dr. Keeve, today's speaker was fat. I'm not going to sugarcoat it because she'll just eat that too. Wow. I mean, I was doing my best, and I explained this during the TEDx. I almost to a one. I never refer to or make comment on the speaker in a TEDx unless they make themselves part of their presentation. Because otherwise I'm just listening to their ideas or their whatever. If they don't make themselves an example or they don't make their life experience something, then as far as I'm concerned, the door is not open for critique. In this instance, well, she was her own prime example, but I did my best, like, unless absolutely necessary, not to comment on her looks or whatever, but chat today was brutal. I tell you what, Drew W. specifically, man, that guy was showing his bully right there. But anyway, Chicago Mike, what movie do you consider a guilty pleasure? A movie that you hate to admit that you like? A movie I hate to admit that I like. I don't know if I feel guilty about any movie I like, or embarrassed to say so. I don't know. Satsu, does anything come to mind? I'll think about it.
I mean, not movie. I'm embarrassed to say I like Redo of Healer because it's objectively deplorable, but I don't care. So it's just like, whatevs. Fuck it. So
yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, honestly, if something ends up, making me happy that I watched it, I don't really feel like ashamed to talk about it. Now, if there is one in the vast library in my head of movies that I've seen that I am reluctant to tell people I like, I can't think of it. So yeah, no, sorry. It just doesn't compute. I mean, even if it's something that I usually wouldn't watch, but I ended up liking, I'd say I liked it.
Ebony asked me, has anybody called me a DILF yet? And the answer is no.
Oh, yeah.
No. First of all, that would require me to interact with people outside of the home, which I'd have to kind of leave to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I don't really do. And, on the rare occasion that I do actually leave the house, it's usually with my wife. So,
well, as an experiment, obviously what you have to do is take Squeetus for a stroll or something all by yourself and see what happens.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I know. Dangerous territory there.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I'm pretty sure no matter how many times that happened, the result isn't going to be some chick's going to be like, oh, wow, what a DILF.
Pyrus Creed, can I get an F in the chat for porn star Dakota Sky, who has passed away today? That's sad. Dakota Sky. Okay, I apologize. I'm gonna have to. I know the names of several porn stars. I can't say that I.
Scribe's gonna go look for science.
Let's see. U.S. Day News. Okay, the star Dakota Sky. Former AVN winner passed away. Dakota Sky's cause of death is unknown after her death news was revealed on the star's Facebook. Her family needs privacy. Yeah, okay. Born in April 1994. I can't say that I'm familiar with her, but that's sad. Whenever somebody dies before their time, so to speak. So that's sad. I'm sorry, Pyrus. Let's see. Frosted Glass. What villain would you want to see in Doctor Strange 2? I mean, I'm hoping for Nightmare. I'm hoping for a classic Doctor Strange villain. Multiverse of Madness. I have a feeling we're going to be encountering various versions of the Sorcerer Supreme, and perhaps a return of Dormammu or something. I don't know. You're talking about various dimensions and things. It could be a whole bunch of stuff. He could be fighting versions of himself. He could be fighting multitude versions of Baron Mordo. Who knows? I guess we'll find out. I kind of assume at some point we will see evil Doctor Strange in there somewhere. Yeah. And like I say, I think the multiverse thing has been pushed as hard as it has been over the last couple of years because they need to explain the disappearance of Spider-Man from the Marvel universe into the Sony universe. And Spider-Man 3, I think, is also going to be a vehicle for that as well. So it had to happen eventually. I'm looking forward to the What If animated series, because that was one of my favorite comic book series when I was growing up, because since I knew the mainline stories for most of the characters, to see these weird offshoots, like what if the Fantastic Four all had the same power? But they all came out as Mr. Fantastic or this, that, and the other. What would that have done to things? Or what if Venom and the Punisher had come together instead of Venom and Eddie Brock? What if the Punisher had the powers of Venom? Or what if Uncle Ben or Aunt May had died instead of Uncle Ben? That kind of stuff. It's just like weird. So like, what if? I always love those things. It's always interesting to sort of think about the possibilities. And so I just hope they don't abuse it. That's the one thing that I'm worried about, is that they will just use it to undo every problem, or do the whole Star Trek reboot thing. It's like, oh, this is another timeline where everything doesn't matter anymore. I'm like, oh God. But yeah, they may use that as an excuse to bring in Miles Morales. All the stuff that they did in the recent Marvel history, to the comic books at least, to merge all their various extra sort of one-off timelines and things in different universes, to have Old Man Logan show up. So yeah, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, whole bunch of things now become far easier to explain should they decide to go that route with a multiverse. Thank you again, Non-Vitae Rex. In theory, Loki would need to travel back in time and stop the space lizards from seizing control of the sacred timeline, thereby rendering the character's choices meaningful again, maybe. No, so here's the concept introduced in the first episode was, when a change to the timeline occurs, there is a amount of time until that change reaches a point of no return where it becomes a timeline that cannot be undone. Right? They kept talking about the red line, like this, the changes to the timeline are sitting still for too long, and at some point it'll be irreversible and it'll become its own timeline. So if the various Lokis can stop the TVA from lighting off their magical hand grenades to reset the timeline, then conceivably Loki can create a multitude of new timelines from different points in history, and thereby create a multiverse. That's the thing. So if he can stave off them resetting the issue long enough, then it becomes a problem that conceivably the timekeepers can't fix. So that's the running theory that I have been imparted. Let's see. Frosted Glass. What if Aunt May got the Venom symbiote? Yeah, sure. What if? Let's see. Data Wasteland. What if the bull had udders? Sure, I guess. Let's see. Bridget Beergood. Scribbles, I'll give this one more shot. Have you ever watched Jerry Anderson's Thunderbirds? Are you talking about the puppets, or the marionette or Marion Magic, or whatever it was? Then yes, I've seen some episodes long time ago. I can't say that I watched it religiously or anything, if that's what you're talking about. Because otherwise, I don't know, Thunderbirds, go! That thing. Then yes, I have seen it. And of course, Team America World Police was heavily inspired by that whole series, and also the I forget what the term was. It's marionette or something. There was some word they gave it, sort of like Cinerama or what was it? Was it called kinescope or whatever it was? Yeah. So there's some term for the technology, quote unquote, they used to make those shows. Anyway, Gulf City Johnny Blaze. In Endgame, they used the Dragon Ball Z time travel rules like Trunks when he went back to the original timeline. Never mind. Yeah, this is the thing. If you establish time travel in your story, you have to. I mean, either you make it absolutely mysterious, or you have to set some very specific rules. In my book, you have to set very, very specific rules because you risk going the Deus Ex Machina route where everything can be solved with time travel. That's the problem. There has to be a cost. There has to be a price to be paid for messing with the basic laws of the universe. And you have to establish what those are very firmly. So if you do this, this happens. A good movie to watch if you want to see a sort of example of how the whole time travel discovery and its consequences are discovered is a movie called Primer. It's from the early 2000s. It is a very cerebral movie. It is a movie that requires, if you really want to understand what's going on, several watches to get it. And indeed, if you really want to know what's going on, there are diagrams and video breakdowns that explain as much as is possible about what's happening if you ever have any questions. So if you only watch it once, look up like what happened in Primer or explain Primer or whatever on YouTube, and it'll tell you. And it breaks down some very interesting rules that are shown but not necessarily fully explained in the movie because as the characters accidentally discover time travel. And then they try to play with it. And that's when things go all crazy. So, Primer is a good movie I'd recommend. One I'm not ashamed to recommend. Thank you, Non-VT Rex. So there's no hope for the past MCU installments. Their choices were and always shall be pointless. How depressing. Yeah, that's the one thing that still stands out to me from the whole theory and elsewise, is that up to the point of Endgame, everything that led to that point was predetermined, would not be changed, etc. I'm sure there are narrative ways to take away that sort of depressing thought, but there you go. I mean, obviously, in the meta of things, of course, there was no choice because they were scripted. Yeah, it's characters in a story and that kind of thing. But in the reality or the situation of the MCU, yeah, kind of a depressing notion. It's like, oh, so Coulson was always going to die. There was no... That was just his end, except for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I assume now is just going to be slotted into a multiverse thing, right? Uh-huh. Yeah. Anyway. Frosted Glass. If you could put one Marvel character in the DC universe and vice versa, what would you do? I'd make it Nightcrawler. You know why? Because Nightcrawler was originally supposed to be a DC character, but he was rejected, and the guy brought him over to Marvel. So I think of all the characters that could cross over, Nightcrawler makes the most sense.
Just
Satsu,
fucking appears into it. He's like from one to the next, just moves from one to the other.
Something like when Nightcrawler teleports, he's actually moving through a different dimension to a different spot in our dimension. So I figure just like, oh, there's some kind of mishap. He goes bamf and zaps himself over to the DC universe. Now, of course, there have been DC Marvel crossover comics before where Superman met Spider-Man and things like that. So it's not completely out of the question for that to happen. But if I had to, I'd say the one that was originally intended should go back there. Let's see. Check your logic. The students in the news stories can read everything they needed to pass their classes, yet they couldn't read the rules of graduation. Either they didn't read them, or more likely than not, they didn't give a shit.
Well, and that's what it usually comes down to. And in a lot of these situations, somebody says, okay, here are the rules. I don't want to follow them. I want to do this other thing instead. And it should be okay for me to do this. So I'm going to do it. And then they do it. And they're like, whoa, like, what are you making a big deal out of this for? Because in their mind, they're like, oh, okay, this isn't that big a deal. So they should be able to overlook it. Instead of, I don't know, logically thinking, no, I'm not special. Why would I be excluded from the rules? But that's how a lot of people tend to think. And that bugs the fuck out of me because it's just like, you went in with the preconceived notion that you were above the rules. Yeah. Like, that was your thought process.
And the worst part is all of the people coming in after the fact and framing it as some sort of racially motivated thing. When it's like, no, look, he put the right shoes on So now he can do his walk. That was the thing in that story that completely disproved the whole thing. It's got nothing to do with it. Oh, but those I assume that those shoes have some significance to some cultural argument or something. That's beside the point. The culture here is the graduation ceremony. The culture here is that everybody's graduating. It's everybody's special day. It's not yours.
Yeah. And the argument that, well, because they're like, oh, disrupting the way that the people of color like to celebrate. It's like, so he wanted to wear Negro shoes is what you're saying? Instead of the white ones.
Ebony Williams, thank you so much. Favorite action movie, my lords. The first one that comes to mind as far as just a pure action movie that I always enjoyed is just called Shoot 'Em Up. It's Clive Owen and, what's his name? The guy who... I forget his name all of a sudden. Anyway, you'll know him when you see him. Anyway, yeah, Clive Owen and I'm suddenly forgetting all the names of the lady from The Matrix who played Persephone, who I should know her name off the top of my head, but I don't. Monica Bellucci, Clive Owen, and the guy from Lady in the Water, who I can't remember now. Anyway, as a pure action movie, great action movie. It was made to be an action movie. The entire thing was storyboarded by the creators beforehand, and it was the storyboards that sold the people on financing the movie because it was such, it was so pre-planned and everything was framed and great action. Just as a pure action movie, Shoot 'Em Up. Satsu?
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Paul Giamatti. That's what it was, Froscos. Thank you. Yeah, Paul Giamatti. Anyway, everyone, we're at the top of the hour and now past it, and that's the end of the show. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate it. You guys really are the best audience in the world, both here and certainly today on TED Excellence, to go along with me in that tragic but amazing experience. Satsu, you doing anything after this?
Like I said, I'll be trying to finish up that 7 days video, see if I can just kind of get it done. And I was thinking about streaming it, like I said, but I'm like, will that like interrupt my actual getting it done? I don't know. We'll see. Just be watching your Twitter. If you see me live, then just hop in.
All right. And as for myself, well, as far as anything specifically on this channel, unless something else comes up, Sunday will be part 4, the final part of the panel discussion about critical race theory from 2010 and the continuation of Question Time. And as far for the both of us, you'll find us tomorrow night on Satsu's channel at the regular time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another Lords of the Night. Everyone, thank you again for joining us. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone is so well behaved. You have very little to do. Everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. Everyone, hope you're all safe and well. But your lives do make us sad. Satsu, thank you for joining me. Everyone, see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
And taking out my copy of Screw the Roses, Send Me the Thorns, the Romance and Sexual Sorcery of Sadomasochism. Today's secret word is Bondi.
Bondi.
B-O-N-D-E. This would be the person who is being bound. Like a bonder and a bondee. Which would you prefer to be, Satsu?
The bonder, thank you.
All right. I'm not going to be your bondee.
No.
I know. Shed a single tear.